Mountain National Park encompasses 108,000 hectares. Headwaters are up on the side of the mountain. It starts from snowmelt and precipitation in little feeder streams that come together, and then the river flows down the mountain and through the Kawanichi Valley.
Rocky Mountain National Park is actually the headwaters of the Colorado River. It originates in Rocky Mountain National Park, and some of the activities, though, that were environmentally damaging actually occurred before the park was established. And in Rocky Mountain National Park, if on the west side, you can see the Grand Ditch, which is a big scar on the mountain, which diverts quite a bit of water from the very headwaters.
And it was constructed between the 1890s and the 1930s. It is a water diversion project, so it's impacting the Colorado River right at the headwaters because it collects all of the snow off of the Never Summers, so that water never gets down to the valley anymore, and takes it north and over to the east side and out to the eastern plains for the farmers and ranchers. We also have another water diversion project down with a tunnel running through the park, Adams Tunnel. So again, water is being taken from the Colorado River and diverted over to the east side. There are more people over there, but less precipitation.
The Park Service manages Rocky Mountain National Park, but as an agency, EPA has responsibilities for reviewing, for example, environmental impact statements. And under federal law, the National Environmental Policy Act in the United States, if there's a major activity, the lead federal agency, whether it's a dam or highway, has to prepare an environmental impact statement. And that's a very, very important process that identifies what the proposed action is, what some of the consequences are, and mitigation. And that's a public document, so that allows the public and decision makers to look at the project and decide, is it good, is it bad? And EPA legally has to review and comment on these documents. We're the only official agency that has to do that.
We have no development in the park. We permit no collecting of any items in the park. We limit backcountry use, and we preserve the natural conditions. In the case of Rocky, we have very spectacular scenery and also wonderful opportunities for viewing wildlife. We have tremendous diversity of animals. We have over 65 species of mammals, including 8 species of bats. We have 285 species of birds, 4 amphibians, 1 reptile, 7 native fish, and over 125 species of butterflies. Rocky Mountain National Park was the 10th national park, and it was created by an act of Congress and signed by President Woodrow Wilson on January 29, 1915. The base budget at Rocky is $10 million, which is allocated by Congress. In addition, the park is permitted to retain 80% of the gate receipts, which adds another $3 to $4 million to our budget. Well, it's required by the parks enabling legislation and the National Park Service mission to preserve and protect this area for future generations. It's the mandate of this park to preserve natural conditions. As far as glaciers, we don't really have any data on that. Where we are seeing climate change impacts is in the infestation of the mountain pine beetle. That's why we have all these dead trees. It's believed that that is partly due, we think maybe a little bit at least, because of the milder winters, shorter winters because of those mild temperatures.
So the mountain pine beetle it's a really interesting phenomenon, and it's part climate change, it's part natural cycle, and it's probably part human management as well. And what we now think is that due to all three of these factors together, climate change and lack of really cold winters that will kill the pests, the single age stands, and the lack of forest fires to naturally thin these stands, we're going to lose 90% of the dominant species here in Colorado in our high country, lodgepole pine. What we think in the short term is that you actually will get increased runoff because the trees actually take up water, right, as they grow. No one really knows what this means in the long run for runoff. But in the short term, maybe the 5 to 10 year time frame, you probably actually see higher amounts of runoff. You probably see some reductions in water quality. The trees actually absorb some key nutrients that now are going to end up in our streams and will then promote growth in those streams that wouldn't have otherwise occurred were the trees healthy and absorbing these nutrients. So there's a whole series of changes associated with these pine beetles that we don't fully understand, and it's an ongoing science experiment how this plays out.